Coming Home by Augusta Webster. Read for LibriVox.org by Newgate Novelist. 5 minutes here, and they must steal 2 more. Shameful. Here have I been 5 mortal years, and not seen home nor one dear kindred face, and these abominable slugs, this guard, this driver, porters, what are they about? Keep us here motionless 2 minutes, 3. Aha! At last! Good. We shall catch our minutes. We're flying after them, like a mad wind chasing the leaves it has tossed on in front. Oh, glorious wild speed, what giants play! And there are men who tell us poetry is dead where railways come. Maybe 'tis true, I'm a bad judge, I've had scant reading time and little will to read. And certainly I've not found railways in what verse I know. But there's a whiz and whir as trains go by, a bullet-like indomitable rush, and then all's done. Which makes me often think one of those men who found out poetry, and had to write the things just that they saw, would have made some of their fine crashing lines that stir one like the marches one knows best, and the enemy knows best, with trains in them as easily as chariots. Anyhow, I've poetry and music too today in the very clatter. It goes, home, home, home. And they'll think that sharp shriek a kinder sound than sweetest singing, when it presently pierces the quiet of the night and sends its eager shrillness on for miles before, to say I'm no time distant. I can see my mother's soft pink cheeks, like roses, pale after a June week's blooming, flush and wan, and her lip quiver. I can see the girls restless between the hall door and the clock. Hear it, and hush and lean expectant heads to catch the rattle of the coming train. My father, sitting pshawing by the fire, at all the fuss and waiting, half start up, dropping his times, forgetful just so long that he is not impatient like the rest, the tender, foolish women, and, alert to hide how he was tempted to fuss too, reseat himself intent on politics. And Hugh, I think Hugh must be there with them, on leave out of his parish for a day, a truant from the old women and the schools to be at home with me for long enough to say, God bless you, in. I can see Hugh, narrow and straight in his skimp priestly coat, pacing the room with slow and even steps and a most patient face, and in his eyes that over-patience we all know in them when he is being extra good and calm. So little change, they write me. All of them with the same faces, scarce a day's mark there. Except our little Maud who was a child and is a woman. Little Maud grown tall. The little Maud I left, half prude, half romp, who, eager for her grown-up dignities, tried to forego her mischiefs and would turn, just in their midst, portentously demure like a tired, sleepy kitten, and today wears all her womanhood inside her heart and has none for her manners. Some of it for her sweet winsome face, though, and a look that's in her portrait brings my mother back, though she's not like, they tell me. I shall see, yes, I shall see, soon, almost now. Dear home, to think I am so near. Ah, when I lay in the hot thirst and fever of my wound, and saw their faces pressing into mine, changing and changing, never a one would stay so long that I could see it like itself. I scarcely hoped for this. And when I felt that tiring weakness of my growing strong, and was so helpless, and the babyish tears would come without a thought to make them come, I almost knew this day would never be. But oh my happy fortune not to die, not even to come home among them then, with nothing done, a spoiled and worthless wreck for them to weep at, softly, out of sight, but to go stoutly to my post again, and do my stroke of work as a man should, and win them this. You little dingy cross, less precious than my sleeve links, what a worth lies in your worthlessness. There's not a man but gladder lays you in his mother's hand, or wife's, and he would bring her for his gift the whole great jewels of an Eastern king. And not a woman but my mother, though. Sometimes she was not strong. Have I been rash, too thoughtless of her calm, not telling of it? No, I'll not wear it on me as I meant, to take her first dear kisses in. We'll talk before I show it, in a day or two. Perhaps tonight. I know she'll prize it more that a life saved went to the winning it. And tender-hearted Ellen will forgive my part she shudders at in the red deaths of battlefields a little more for that. How sad her letters were. I know she thinks we learn a heathenish passion after blood, and, as she said, to throw our lives like dross back in our Maker's face. But by and by I'll teach her how it is, and that we fight for duty, not like either fiends or fools. They say they are longing for my history, told by the fire of evenings, all my deeds, all my escapes, and I must clear their minds of 50 puzzles of the journalists, decide what's true, and make them understand the battles and the marchings. But my deeds have been to just be one among them all, doing what we were bidden as we could, and my escapes must have been like the rest. One has no time to know them. Just that once, when I was dragging off the fallen boy, I knew what death was nearest as it missed. But I've no memory of more escapes. Except by being wounded, as they know, and what can I explain of battle plans made in the councils, whether kept or not, I cannot tell. I only know my part in theirs with whom I waited at our post, or dashed on at the word. I could not mark the swaying of the squadrons, the recoils and shifting ground and sudden strategies, and had no duty to be watching them. No, I shall make them better out in print, and learn in our snug study what I saw among the rush and smoke. No, I come back no better talker than I was before, no readier and no deeper. Not like Hugh, and I must use my unaspiring wits to say things as I see them, going straight, just as a plain man's life does, tramping on the way that lies before one, with no whys. No whys. Ah, how that chance word takes me back to pinafore time. My father's well-known phrase, no whying, boy, but do what you are bid. And once my mother, when first Hugh began to be so clever and had found it out, and, pleased at it, perhaps a little pert, was apt to hit on puzzles, answered him, our nursery rule was good for afterwards, spared headaches and spared heartaches, and, well kept, made the best heroes and best Christians too. How I can see Hugh looking down to say, in an odd slow tone, I will remember that. And well he has remembered. Never a man went straighter into action than our Hugh. He knows what side he's on and stands to it. If I'd a head like his and wished to change soldiering for anything, I'd try to learn a parish parson's work to do it like Hugh. Will he read prayers tonight? I'd like to hear my father at it, as it used to be before we any of us went away. The old times back again. Oh, all of us will say our prayers tonight out of glad hearts. Oh, thank God for the meeting we shall have. Such joy among us, and the countryside all to be glad for us. Ah, well, I fear there's one will shrink and sadden at my sight among the welcomes and the happiness, remembering that her husband was my friend and dropped beside me. But I'll go alone, or maybe with my mother, to her house and let her have the pain more quietly, before she sees me in our Sunday pew, with all the old friends smiling through the prayers and all but nodding, and a buzzing round, spoiling the parson's reading. Look! And look! There's Master Harry come back from the war. Oh, how my mother's eyes will turn to me, half unawares, then fix upon her book that none may see them growing large and moist, and how my father will look stern and frown, hiding the treacherous twinkles with the shade of knitted brows, lest any watching him should think him moved to have his son by him, and proud like foolish fathers. But the girls will be all smiles and flutter, and look round elate as if no other girls before had had a soldier brother. And old Will, out of his corner by the vestry door, will peer and blink and suck his grins in tight, trying to mind the sermon and not think what sport he has for me in the preserves. Plenty of birds this year, my father writes. We'll see next week, and there's the long shrill yell! Home, all but home! Oh, there, between the trees, that light, our house. They're waiting for me there. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.